Alright, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? We're going to be going over the best priest build, in my opinion, in Blessed. Or Bless Unleashed, sorry. I keep mistaking that it's Bless and not Blessed Unleashed. So, there's a couple different ways that you can do a priest build, and it all depends on the way you want to play as a priest. Now, I talked to several different priests about how they use their priest and endgame content, because really the build on priest depends on the kind of blessing that you're really going to be using. Are you going to be using Crescent Moon? Are you going to be using Storm Chaser? Are you going to be using Nightwind? Because that all makes a difference. My priest right now has a gear score of about 1162, 1170 when I put the right stuff on. So really, it all comes down to how you want to play. See, some priests like to stack attack because they have fatter, they have fat heals. For example, like my attack is at 6500. So when you see my heal, this is how much I heal for on Crescent Moon. 5742. Looks like this guy wants another heal. So basically, I stacked my priest with all attack. For example, my shoes, that has like 500 attack. I'm gonna get rid of that. Gloves of the Prophet, perfect roll. I'm gonna get rid of that. Shoulders has attack power as well. Got rid of that. My waist is an extra attack power 500. So getting rid of all the gear that has attack power to exchange it for other gear that's in the marketplace will reflect how big my heal is. So now my attack is 4600, and that's mainly because my staff is a mythic staff. So the extra attack that I'm getting is actually from, the buffs around possibly the area, and just my levels from leveling up to 31. As you can see, at 4600 attack, this is how much you'll heal for as a priest, 3900. So it's not too bad, but this is with Crescent Moon. So now let's get right into it. Let's go into some of the gear that, as a priest is going to be completely different. Now, as a priest, the two things I will say is for bigger heals, you definitely want to have red runes for attack upgrades. For example, obviously you can use Royce's necklace. This is one of the builds I will go for, is because to keep your priest alive is to have Royce's necklace, because of the fact that as a priest you are pretty squishy, and your main job as a support class is to heal people. So aim for yellow runes and red runes. So this is one necklace I would recommend. The other is actually the Horde necklace, right here. The Horde necklace gives you an attack buff of 304, and the crit hit damage, that's extra, because honestly it really comes down to, you wanted to be able to heal your teammates. So that extra crit damage is just a plus. So the Horde necklace or the Roizen necklace build, I would say to go with the priest. That's absolute. The ring, it comes down to the Sinister Ring, mainly because the Sinister Ring gives you that attack buff and extra defense. So again, 11 red runes for the attack buff of 377 and defense of 144. So if I had bought those two things, my attack would be at least over 7k with the right runes, with all the gear that I bought. Now there are other rings that you can get for the priest, but in my opinion, the best accessories for the priest is this, because of the fact that you get extra defense, crit hit damage and all that. This is all if you want to be, the phrase that people always like to say is DPS priest, but in my opinion, your best bet as a priest is to buff to the max your teammates, because they're going to be doing the most amount of damage because of you. So for the weapon, what I recommend, again, this is all blessing based, is for example, for Storm Chaser, or if you're using Judgment consistently, the protection of Demia, because Judgment, if I'm not mistaken, second, let's go to the skill tree. Judgment damages and knocks back the target and inflicts the judgment debuff. Attacking enemies affected by Judgment will restore 1% of the damage dealt, HP. Now, if you max it out all the way, you get 2% of the damage dealt. Nightwind has it as well, but the difference is you only get 1.5 of the damage dealt. 2% is a much it's a 0.5% difference more, but it makes all the difference. And this is what I meant about picking the blessing that you run a runner with. For example, like most priests only have Crescent Moon, some priests have Night Wind, and the goal and the dream for in the time being is Storm Chaser for most priests. So I'm gonna be talking as if you have Storm Chaser. If not, I'll make some suggestions. Let's go back to the weapon. So the protection of Demia reduces the judgment cost, so you constantly can keep pumping it out. I mean, obviously this is like at a high roll of 27%, and I did talk to some priests, and they did tell me that their weapon, I mean this they tested it out, and the judgment cost actually makes a difference. Sometimes some of the gear reduces cost, but it drops down such a short percentage that it's almost not even worth it. These are actually fairly cheap now from when they first came out. Now this is the staff that's every priest that what they really want. This is the staff of Epiphany. This is you get this in the Abyssal Altar of Blood. The protection of Demia is in the Lich dungeon. Now the Staff of Promise, that does is reduces enemy attack power. That's not really relevant. It's useful, but it's you're not gonna really be using that. Divine Strike damage, that's just situational. That's only for yourself. Um, Looks like these are really expensive. No idea why. Going back to the Staff of Epiphany, this increases your allies' attack power by 3.3% to within a 5-meter radius. To 5%. Now, this is what's really cool about these abilities is that they actually stack with yourself as well. So you're also increasing your attack power based off the percentage roll that's given here. So infrared and yellow runes, you don't need white because you're obviously not a mage. So the reason that this is really good and it's going to affect your teammates is because as quote unquote, I guess, a DPS priest, or in my opinion, a support priest, you're going to make fights go by much quicker. For example, if you have Mark plus a Berserker debuff plus this attack buff and Judgment and the Nightwind Mark, you're going to be constantly healing yourself consistently until the fights are going to be smooth. So that's just the weapon. And to go back over it, I already said the dungeons that those are located in. Now for the hat, we have a couple of different hats. The Hat of Desire reduces Judgment cooldown, and I talked to priests and they said that yes, it's good to have it, a cooldown of minus 2 seconds on a max roll. However, this is if you just want to stack abilities, then go ahead and get this. You'll have the Hat of Desire, and stack it with a couple of different other pieces of gear. Let's see what else is in here. The Hat of Eternity. Now this is the hat that myself and mostly other people use because the defense is such a crucial thing to have as a priest to keep yourself alive. Because all of these extra abilities, they're irrelevant. For example, max HP, you don't really need that. Hat of Annihilation, I mean, because this is only if you're going to be constantly healing yourself. I mean, the Hat of Eternity gives you 1700 defense versus 1000 extra health. The decision is clear and it's very easy to decide. The Hat of Desire, again, like you don't need that. So the Hat of Eternity is the headpiece that you're going to be using for the priest. And the Hat of Eternity, you can find it in the Lich dungeon, and you can also find it in the Archon of Fire. Now for the robe. I mean, the robe really depends on your playstyle. I've asked priest if this Shield of Faith cooldown, when they're using, Nightwind or Storm Chaser, makes a difference. They've used it and they said it's almost irrelevant to have, and that's exactly why it's selling for so cheap, because most priests don't really use this. From even people in my own guild, they've tested this and they've used it, and it's almost better, if anything, to use this robe instead, the defense robe. Or if you want to quote unquote continue calling yourself a DPS priest, go ahead and go for the crit damage robe. So, going back to the Placid Mage robe, in my opinion, Hat of Eternity plus the Placid Mage robe. Now, for the Grand Seer's robe, that's nice and all, but you don't need that. The Truth Seeker's robe, again, I don't know if you saw, but like there's a bunch of different pieces of gear that kind of go hand in hand. I don't know if you saw that hat that does the same thing with Smiting Fist. Like that's pretty good too. But survivability, go ahead and just drop the defense robe. But this robe drops in the Chamber of the Ancients, if I'm not mistaken, and also Abyssal Infernal Kitchen. Now, my two recommendations again are the Robe of Annihilation and the defense robe. Those are both really good robes to continue using. Now, for the leg armor, we have the Grand Seer's leg armor of Eternity, Shield of Faith cooldown. This is actually very, very useful. This is what some of my guild members use. Like again, they use Storm Chaser, and they said out of the pants that are available, you won't obviously be using the leg armor of Annihilation because you don't need that. Now this, when you're using Nightwind and Storm Chaser, is extremely useful. 4.4 to 8.8 cooldown pants. So when you have that down, and if you're using it in dungeons and you're constantly dishing out basically shields for the team, you're being extremely beneficial, and they're not taking any damage, especially in dungeons like the Abyssal Kitchen and Abyssal Altar of Blood, because there's moments where the shield actually saves you more than not. So that's my recommendation, and these pants are located in, if I'm not mistaken, Depths of Corruption, and yeah, Depths of Corruption, if I'm not mistaken. But don't quote me on that one, because that's one I'm completely unsure of. For boots, it comes down to whether you want, and this is what I was telling you, whether you want to have a really, really big heals, or do you want to go more for a full-on support priest. Now, if you want really big heals, the Grand Seer's boots, they're really cheap on the market now from when they first came out. They used to be like $1 million consistently. But no, the rest comes down to what kind of skills you want to have. For example, the Placid Mage's boots, that's nothing. Truth Seeker boots, that's nothing. Boots of Annihilation, it reduces Holy Nova energy cost. So that's good for Crescent Moon and Storm Chaser because they both have Holy Nova that heals everyone. However, that's just a situational thing. Usually use that at the end of the fight, in the middle. It's not going to completely cripple you by using it, so it's completely fine to not use those. Now, this is something that people on Crescent Moon use. Consuming your healing sphere grants your affected allies 3.5 to 7% critical hit rate for 7 seconds. That's a buff that you can give your teammates. But in my opinion, again, this is my opinion. You have to take it at face value. I've tested it myself. I prefer having the extra attack power because I like my heals to be bigger. For example, I use Crescent Moon. That extra attack power, if I want to be a full-on support priest, can work. But that means I'm gonna go full support build and no buffs on any of my gear, because as you can see, my attack is still 4600. I still here for a substantial amount. I still here for about 4600. Now let's go back and let's see how much my heal is. This is without any attack buffs on any of my gear, so with a mythic weapon. So 4000, and that'll heal most players except for Zergs and Crusaders because they don't have that much of a they don't have that much health. Now, going back into it, that's still that 4,000 heal. You gotta ask yourself, is that gonna be worth it? I mean, with Crescent Moon, it's nice and easy. However, when you're using Storm Chaser, your heals are actually reduced by a little bit more than half. So I would not be healing anyone for basically anything. For example, this heal, when I give it to somebody, will be around 2,000 HP. So that's a very, very small heal. However, you can offset that by the gear that you're using. So those are the boots. Again, I prefer the Grand Seer's boots, but if you want to go full support, go ahead and go for the Boots of Eternity. Now, for the gloves. We have the Gloves of Eternity. You're not going to use that. Critical hit damage, you're not going to use that. Now, the Gloves of Annihilation, reducing Healing Sphere Holy Energy cost 17.23%. The reason I wouldn't use this, mainly because your healing sphere already has a cooldown, so by that point, and basically while you're attacking, you are going to get your energy back anyway. So reducing your holy energy cost isn't that much of a difference. I mean, obviously you're using if you're continuously dishing out like special move sets, like then by all means you can definitely use this. But it's more useful to have something like this. Shield of Faith increases your affected character's attack by 3.2 to 6.3%. So this is more if you're using Crescent Moon. And this is if you're using Nightwind or Storm Chaser. So if you do the math, 5% with your staff from the Staff of Epiphany, which is an Abyssal Altar Blood, plus a 6.3 max roll, that's already what 11.3 extra attack power. And then on top of that, add your ring, which is another 15%, if I'm not mistaken, that you're buffing your teammates' attack by a substantial amount to make dungeons go by quicker. So these are actually really, really good to get. Now, I'm not using Storm Chaser and I'm not using Nightwind on my priest at all. I still am stuck on Crescent Moon. So although this is the gloves that you want to be using as a support healer when you have Nightwind or Storm Chaser, I would go for, let's see, the gloves of the Prophet, as you saw, because that way my heals can be, as thick as they are. So we're gonna be moving on now. So you make that choice. If you're on Storm Chaser or if you're on Nightwind, go ahead and use the Placid Mage's gloves because your teammates will love you. And again, nothing is better than a priest that completely supports and does DPS because you're buffing your teammates means a quicker, faster, smoother run, and they'll love you for it. And if you're, like I said, if you're using Nightwind, the more attack power they have means the more heals they can give themselves through Judgment. Now the shoulder guards. Let's go over the shoulder guards. We have the shoulder guards of Eternity. That is a nope. We have the shoulder guards of Desire. Holy Flame, Holy Energy Cost. That is a nope. That is also a nope. And these are also nope. See, all of these are these are specific to an attack. So again, these are some things if you want to quote unquote be a DPS priest. And again, that's if you want to be a DPS class, go ahead and play mage. I mean, at the end of the day, you'll do more damage, in my opinion, and remember that. Don't take my word for it. By doing stuff like this, like not using any of this gear. I mean, the holy energy cost, you don't need that. I recommend using the Grand Seer shoulder guards because that's going to be consistent extra DPS. Again, they're pretty cheap, although the runes that you may want are not on here that you may like, but it's better than nothing. Then these things are a lot cheaper than when I had them when they first came out. So then moving on. So for the belt of Eternity, that's the attack power belt. There's so many because of the event now. Everyone's opening up boxes. So those are going to be sold pretty much soon. That's pretty good to have. Like that's what I am using because of the attack buff. So let's see, Blades of Justice cooldown, don't really need that. Belt of Annihilation, don't really need that. Now this is actually very useful. The Placid Mage's belt with the Placid Mage's gloves. Now you're not going to use everything Placid Mage because when you're using Storm Chaser, this is specific to the Blessing Storm Chaser. I was talking to people in my guild and the people that use this, and they said, although your heals are very small, this is extremely helpful because of the fact that they're small. With the cooldown reduction, you can constantly dish out more heals, and the best thing about it is, unlike the orb where they have to come and look for it, you can continue DPSing, drop your heal wave, and then have a reduction cost of 6 seconds. And they're all on the marketplace, and this is a beautiful belt to have because you can see it has 2 reds. And as a priest, you want to have a lot of reds. And also at the same time, you also want to have the highest amount. Like look at this, 5.3 with 2 reds. I'd cop that instantly. If I want to be a complete full-on support priest. But seeing as I'm not on Storm Chaser and seeing as I'm not on Nightwind either, I am not using the Placid Mage's belt. I'm using the Belt of Eternity. So that is my opinion of the best build of the priest. There's 2 different builds. You could be full-on attack stacking, like what I'm doing right now, for fatter heals, or you can go full-on support. So I'm going to go over it one more time. The attack stacking priest would have the Grand Seer's boots, the gloves of the Prophet, the Grand Seer's shoulders, the Belt of Eternity. So my attack went from 4,000 or 4,600 to 6,347, 6,500. Someone must have been buffing me, but this is my real attack. So, my flat heal with Crescent Moon in most dungeons is 5,500. And this is extremely useful, and this is with a Mythic B weapon. It'd be extremely higher, obviously, if I had an A weapon. And, even using even using like more buffs. So you know what? Let me show you how much further I could even go. I sold a lot of my attack rings. I don't have the Sinister ring and I don't have the Horde necklace runes active, but I can show you guys the Violent Tide ring. It's really cheap right now. I have the runes for it. So let's buy this one so you guys can see how much more you can heal. So I just bought one, 200 star seeds of steel. I used to sell these things for a lot more than that one than what they're selling for now. So here we go. My attack just went up to 70, let's see, 6,700 with accessories. So now I'm almost at a 6,000 heal. Now, with the ring, my attack went to 7,752. And this is how much my heal goes for. And this is why the ring is really important. 6,632, oh no, 6,632. Alright. So with that said, this is an attack-based priest with like full attack buffs for the fatter, the thicker heals. Now the ability-based priest, my recommendation is for the cloth, the Hat of Eternity, the Placid Mage's Robe, or the Robe of Annihilation. So Robe of Annihilation, or the Placid Mage's Robe. The leg armor is going to be the ability-based, which is the leg armor of eternity. The boots, again, those are going to be, if I'm not mistaken, the Grand Series boots. I'm ignoring everything else. Because, oh, there you go. The boots of eternity or the Grand Series boots. The glove is going to be the Placid Mage's gloves. So that's the full-on support, because that's going to buff your teammates by extra 6.3% at max roll. Shoulder guards, Grand Series shoulder guards, that is without a doubt. And the belt is going to be the Placid Mage's belt. So these are the best, builds for, a priest. Now there is gear that you can use that's obviously, why am I using B gear? Because sometimes you could actually get really decent B gear, level it up to kind of complement what you have. For example, look at all this extra B gear that you can use. None of this is actually useful to trade out. But that's pretty much what I have. I mean, there's obviously like attack, pants that is in PvP that I can get the extra 313 for fatter heals. But honestly, I'd rather use the support legs. But since I'm not using Crescent Moon, I'd use the attack PvP pants, which is inside the Sand or Voss marketplace. But hopefully, guys, I answered a couple of questions for you guys. I just want to make you. I didn't come out with this video for a while because I didn't have a strong opinion on the blessings. Because again, the way you build a character around is the blessing around your character. And again, you have all these different skill sets for the priest, and the gear that you're buying is basically relative to your blessing. So again, like the Crescent Moon, that has Smiting Fist. As you can see, there's a lot of different gear that I can buy that complements this specific attack. And I don't think it's just worth it to build gear around these attacks, because at the end of the day, my opinion, and it will always be an opinion as a healer, is I want to support my teammates. Now maybe for PvP everything else will be different, but this is just my opinion. I mean, you see the way I play as a healer. I move around, I attack, and then my cooldown time is really quick. I mean, if they had gear to reduce the cooldown on the sphere, I would love that more than I would love the reduction of holy energy cost, because as of right now, obviously it takes half of your energy, but look at how long it takes to come back. So if it reduces my energy cost, look how pointless it is, because I'm already at full holy energy to begin with. Like, it's already back. Let's say I use both attacks. Let's see how long it takes. There goes my heal again. Before it comes back, I already have another one. So again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. If you guys have any, I know some of you guys want to see a union video, and I will definitely put that out there for you guys. So I just gotta know what exactly you guys asking for. So one more time, just so you guys can see, dropping a heal, I'm doing my move sets. So I can't use a second one. So I mean, that's the only situation I would see that you need to have the reduction cost. You can use both your move sets, Smiting Fist and what was the other one called? Divine Strike. But thank you guys for watching. Remember to follow the socials. Um, Mixer, Twitch, Twitter, the Discord. The new Discord's in there. Again, we need more people to join the Discord so we can get PvP going. But thank you guys for watching and have a good one.